What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this video. Today we're going to talk about Maltego, and this video again is part of the TryHackMe Red Team pathway. Specifically, we are talking about Red Team Reconnaissance Room. So before we dive into the task in hand, let's first talk about how to install Maltego, because for example, in my distribution, it didn't come pre-installed, so I had to reinstall the package again. So how to do that? You simply go to your terminal and execute sudo Maltego. It's gonna ask you if you want to install the package if it doesn't exist on your system. So you're gonna proceed and install it, and this is it. And how to execute? You simply type sudo Maltego and it will execute the package. So let's go back and see what you will see here. The first pop-up we receive, as you can see here, it is prompting you to select the version. So since we don't have an API key, we don't have an activation key, we're going to go ahead and click on the Maltego Community Edition, which is the free one. It's going to click on Run. We're going to agree to the terms. And here it's going to ask you to provide an email address. So if you don't have an account, you need to register an account here. I have an account, so I'm going to proceed and use my throwaway email address. And here type in my password and solve the CAPTCHA. Let's see. As you can see, now I am logged in. Click on next. So now it is installing the transforms, because the idea of Maltego is based on transforms. So remember that Maltego is a reconnaissance GUI program. So it's based on, so everything you want to get information about, like a domain name or a company, it is created as an entity, right? So an entity is actually a form of a domain name or email address or a company name. And in order to gather information, you're gonna have to use transforms. It's gonna click on next. Okay, we're gonna be just this skip that. Web browser, the default browser, you're gonna select Chrome. Next. Privacy mode, just click on next. Open a blank graph and let me play around. Alright, I'm gonna click on finish. Now I have installed Maltego and it's ready to go. I'm gonna click on acknowledge. Okay, now as you can see, guys, here, if you go to transforms, okay, and I click on transform hub. So in transform hub we see all of the transforms that are available, okay, and we have filters. So we can filter by the access options, by the category, the plan, the pricing, and staff picks. So we can select first the plan that's community. And let's see here. Let's go to categories and select all the categories. So access options, we want only the free ones. Click on run unlimited. We can select free with API key. The pricing, staff picks, useful for all. We're gonna leave these as is. As you can see, guys, we have rice and many transforms to select from. So the transforms are tools, and the entities are the companies or the domain names you want to run the transform against. So basically, that's how it works. So now let's go back to the start page, to the transform hub. And now we select on new graph. So the first thing we want to do, guys, is to create an entity. Okay, so here are, as you can see on the left, we have the transforms that are pre-installed with Maltego. You can collapse this one. They are grouped by categories, as you can see. So if you collapse these like that, So from here we select an entity. Okay, let's go to, depending on the type of entity we want to run the transforms against. So it could be a company, could be again email or domain name. So let's go to infrastructure and select a domain name. So now we got the domain name here. What we have to do, we have to put in a name for this entity. So we can double click and type the domain name. So let's put in my domain name and select on OK. And as you can see on the right, the information has changed to indicate the information we have entered, which is a domain name, as you can see here. Now we have defined what kind of entity, okay, we want to work with. Now let's start the information gathering phase. So we can select a transform by, as you can see, highlighting the run view here on the left pane. So it contains all the transforms, okay? Or we can right click and select all transforms. This will bring up the transforms that can be run against this domain name. So I prefer to go to transforms, highlight domain, go to transforms, and from here, as you can see, I can select the transforms. So all transforms. Note that every transform has this button. If you click on this button, this should bring up select browser cannot be run. Okay, let's select another browser, default system browser, apply. Will take you to the documentation of the Maltego. Here you can take a look at all the transforms and how every transform works. Alternatively, as you can see here, guys, with every transforms there is a description about what the transform does. As you can see, to DNS name, this transform will search for a set of interesting DNS names in the DNS zone. And here all of these are DNS transforms. Here we can, as you can see, to email addresses. So this transform looks for email addresses, matches in entity's properties. Now, when I run this transform here, as you can see, guys, the DNS transform, it gave me two other transforms. If I highlight this one like that, now, as you can see, the first one is a name server, and the other one is cloud DNS. So if I run other transform here, say I want to run the MX records. Now, as you can see, it gives me the MX records. Now remember that every entity you get, so every single one of these results is considered as an entity. Okay. Now an entity that has been extracted from another entity, which is a domain name. Now you can run further transforms on these entities as well. As you can see here, guys, when I click on every single one of them, I have the transform list changes according to the nature of the entity. If I go back to the main entity here and say I want to extract IP addresses, for example, to IP address. Nothing changed. Let's say to URLs. Now some of the entities or some of the transform that you run against a domain name or the company or the entity actually connect to the target itself. So it moves from passive reconnaissance into active reconnaissance. So you have to make sure that the transform you run against the domain name, if you want to run only passive reconnaissance, make sure to run transforms that do not connect to the target. Let's go back and say, let's say we want to extract email addresses to email addresses. So this one didn't give us results. Let's try this one. And as you can see, we have one email address. This email address is the email address of, I don't like this button always. Okay. If I want to highlight the entity here. Okay, so I have a new entity, as you can see, which is the email address of the administration that is related to all of the registrar of the domain name. Take this like that. Okay, let's see what other transforms can we run. Remember that every transform represents a type of information gathering. So up until now, we have gathered information about the MX records, the registrar, the name servers, and now if we scroll down to see other transforms that can be run, we can run two domains. This transform extracts all the domains from a domain, excludes TLDs. Let's run this one. And see we got no results. Search for emails containing the domain. We can run this to see what are the emails hosted on the domain. So we can run this transform. Access denied. Your license is enabled for use with this integration. So some transforms require you a different license. The license we have right now is Community Edition, as you can see here. Some transforms require either an API key or different version. So this one, as you can see, you may need to supply an API key or purchase a data bundle. So not all transforms can be run in the Community Edition. Okay. So what other transforms can we run? So this one is a domain name, right? Again, we can go back here and select the type of entity. We can start with a company name, as you can see here. So if we take this one here, we say, for example, change the company name to TryHackMe. So let's delete these or just keep them for okay, let's highlight this and see what kind of transform we can run. Extract properties. This transform will search in the input entity for the property provided and extract it as a phrase entity. Not interested in this one. Let's go back to all transforms. To URLs, this transform looks for URL matches in entity's properties. If we run this, now remember that every transform connects to a specific service online. Okay. Now, given that this is a company name, it may need to use search engines to extract relevant information. Now let's go here and highlight. Okay. Let's see different entity here. Online group, religious group, banner. We can start with an IP address, as you can see here. IPv6 or IPv4. Let's start with this one. Delete this. And let's use the command line and say we want to ping TryHackMe. Now let's take the IP address and see what information that can be given using Maltego if we supply the IP address. Okay, and now we take this here, click on transforms. So as you can see, guys, with every sort or every type of entity, the transform list changes, right? As you can see, we have now the ability to look up the IP address in student search engine and check for fraud and other useful transforms. So let's say we want to DNS names. This transform looks for possible DNS names in an entity's properties. So let's run this transform. Hopefully it doesn't require an API key. What about this one? We're trying to extract DNS names. So this one worked. To DNS name from passive reconnaissance. As you can see, we got these domain names starting from only one IP address. Some of these are subdomains, as you can see, such as blog.tryhackme, docs.tryhackme, react, help. All of these information are very useful during an information gathering phase. So in the information gathering phase or the reconnaissance phase, you aim to collect information such as IP addresses, subdomains, email addresses, DNS records, so on and so forth. So if you click on that one, it is the main domain, TryHackMe. We can run further transforms on this one. We can highlight this and go to the left pane and select, for example, to IP address. And now, as you can see, this entity has generated these IP addresses. It means that these IP addresses belong to this domain name. We can also run further transforms on an entity such as this IP address. Probably this is an internal IP address. Let's take this one. Now we take it here and we run transforms on this IP address. Let's see if we can to host names, run the host name, check on this. As you can see on the lower pane, it tells you what kind of database it is looking up to retrieve the details. As you can see here, it showed an internet database, but we got no results. Since it is an IP address, let's try to ping the location and extract information, location information. So we can run location here, but we got no results. Let's try this one. Oh, still no results. It doesn't necessarily have to work. It depends on the database that we are querying. So if we try the location on the main entity here, this one, which actually, as you can see guys, the only difference between this IP address and the above one is the third block. Here it is 55 in the main one, and the one that belongs to tryhackme.com, the main domain, it is 54. Let's try to run location on this. Nothing has been retrieved. Okay, let's try to see if the GPS could work, and it didn't work. Okay, we can try now to extract email addresses from the main domain, TryHackMe. So we can scroll down and say to email addresses. But there were no results. To URLs. Now again guys, it all depends on the domain name, the privacy settings, and database that's being queried. So the success of the information that's being gathered or that you want to gather depend on these two factors. The first one is the privacy settings on the target and the database that you are querying. You can also experiment with other sorts of entities. You can start from domain, from IP address, and MX record. You have many sorts of entities that you can start from. I recommend you guys to give this a look. You can also start from hash or a malware family. This means that we can use Maltego for more than information gathering. It can be used for threat intelligence as indicated here. So if you go to back to the documentation, we can see the transforms being categorized based on the purpose. So here we have social media investigations. Here we have transforms for tracking and profiling bad actors, threat intelligence, analyzing historical contents, document analysis. So we could spend like days with Maltego and going over every category, but basically it's very important to understand the basics. What is an entity? What is a transform? The relationship between the entities and transforms, and how you can apply them on real case scenarios. So now there is two questions in the TryHackMe room. The first one, let's see here, grab the link. So we have two questions in this room, which is the last two questions to finish the room. What's the name of the transform that queries NIST's National Vulnerability Database? The hint is telling you guys to check the documentation. Check this URL. So let's check this URL. Okay. Now, this is the same list we saw earlier when we opened up Maltego. If you go back and check the transforms and go to Transform Hub, now from here we can answer the question. So let's go back. What's the name of the transform that queries NIST National Vulnerability Database? So it's about vulnerabilities. So the categories here should be breaches and leaks, company data, infrastructure, vulnerabilities. Okay. So what's the name of the transform that queries NIST? This is the one. Click on this, and the name is NIST NVD. NIST NVD. What's the name of the project that offers a transform based on ATT and CK? The hint is saying again to check the documentation, or if you have it installed, to go back and check it from here. So let's go back to the categories. So here we're talking about threat intelligence platforms. We want to see the transforms that are related to these threat intelligence platforms, so we can play here with the categories. So breaches and leaks, company data, deep and dark web, personal identifiers, phishing, recon, TTPs, tactic, techniques, and procedures. TTPs stands for tactics, techniques, and procedures, and it is a term used heavily by threat intelligence frameworks such as ATT and CK MISP. So we can let's see if we can copy the link or the name. Nope. So what's the name of the project? The project that offered a transform based on ATT and CK. The name of the project is MISP project. So MISP project. And this is it, guys. Let's go back now to Maltego. The transform manager. If you click on the transform manager, we can see the list of all the transforms that are either installed by the user or come pre-installed by the program. So you can scroll this down. So for every transform, if you click on that transform, we can see the list of details. Okay, right click, we can delete the transform altogether, or we can double click from here and we can see the details. Going to transform servers, we can check all the servers that Maltego queries to retrieve the information, along with the list of transforms used by the server. And from here we can create a new transform. You can put in the display name, the description, and here the command line that is run by the transform. So you can create your own transforms as well. And here, let's go to, if you want to launch a new investigation, you can go to the investigation tab and click new investigation. This will launch a new graph. As you can see here, the previous graph will be ignored, and you can now run a new investigation here. You can play with the view from this tab, and last but not least, this button. With this button, we can import and export entities using this wizard. And if you can also manage the license manager, you can change the version using this option. If you click on options, we can go back to the settings of such as what is the web browser that's used by Maltego. You can select it from here, and other options related to audio, files, so on and so forth, and the updates. These are straightforward options. But for now, you are all set to start practicing your reconnaissance skills and threat intelligence skills using Maltego. I hope that was helpful, guys, and I will see you in the next video.